So I want to start with this, right? Because I feel like I want to start here. I want to talk a little bit about John Morant. I didn't do it last week, but I feel like the very next day, I think the information about the welfare check comes out, and he is, the police said he was okay, everything's good. He said he was taking a break from social media, while I say, okay, that's cool that you're taking a break. I think there are better ways to announce that you're taking a break than kind of sending
Yeah,
these cryptic, like
yeah.
mom, bye, dad, bye, NBA, bye.
Mhm.
Like that is concerning. And I think for me,
Take the
when I
ISO while I go get another beer.
all right, so I'll take the ISO. So I think for me, I think the thing that concerns me about Ja is people have been talking about the money. People have been talking about the endorsements that he's messing up. And for me, the thing that has been concerning is forget the money. Are you good? Right? Are you good? And who do you want to be? Those are the two questions I have for him. Because if I think we've seen a lot of people who've come into a lot of money turn around and say, life was better for me when I was broke. Right? Life was better for me when I was still on the streets with nothing. Now I got all this bread, I got all this fame, fortune, this notoriety, and I hate it. And part of me wonders if a lot of the things that his actions and the way he's acting out is because life for him was better when no one knew him as Ja Morant, when he was Demetrius, right? Maybe he's always been called Ja, right? But when the world did not know Ja Morant and only his family knew him, maybe life for him was better. And so I hope that this brother, I said this at the time when he came back, and I said, can you really fix everything that's wrong with you in 2 weeks?
Hmm.
Can you really turn your life around in 2 weeks? And the answer is no, right? Because he said, I won't do this again. And then 2 months later, you do the same thing. And your man's had more sense than you. As soon as he saw you with the gun, he drops his phone because he understands the stakes at that in that particular moment more than you did. And so for Ja, man, like I heard, I don't know if you saw this clip, and I didn't have it queued up for tonight, but DeMar DeRozan talks about like how guys really don't love the sport, how guys really don't love basketball.
Yes. Yeah.
And so my thing is, it's like, yo, Ja, do you love this?
Hmm.
Like maybe when you got drafted, right, and you came into the league and you're fresh face and you're from a small time school, you're overlooked, you wanted to prove a point that you should have been number one, even over Zion, that you're going to show everyone what they've been missing over the last 2-3 years. But maybe now you've gotten into this space and now you decide you don't want it. And if you don't love it anymore, if you don't love the game, bro, that's okay. Like people are going to call you crazy if you come out tomorrow and say, I am announcing my retirement from basketball, or I'm going to take the year off to work on my mental health and work on my mind.
Have
Cool.
we seen anybody do that? I mean, obviously not at the caliber of player that John Morant is.
Never. I mean, because this culture does not, right? It's grind culture,
I mean,
right?
we saw
Basketball.
Glenn Coffey. Glenn Coffey ran away. I mean, remember Glenn Coffey?
Yeah, I think Glenn Coffey had like serious mental health issues, right? I thought
I
it was
thought he went. I thought he went to be a. No, you're thinking about Marion Barber, right?
okay.
I think Glenn
Okay.
Coffey just went to be a pastor. Like I think after like his second or third year, he was just like,
I think
"Yo,
you're right. I think you're right.
yeah." And I mean, he was more. He was like a. He wasn't like a top, but I mean, he's probably on a millionaire. Was like, hey, like this is what I don't. It's not my passion.
Yeah, and you're right. Like I'm looking at his wiki page now. He confirmed the reason he retired that his heart was never in football, and that he
Yeah.
believed God wanted him to take another path. Um, although it says in 2017 he was officially reinstated by the NFL and was released by the San Francisco 49ers, who still owns the rights. But I mean, like
Hey,
he didn't.
man said, "Hey, Lord, if you want me to put 10% in, I'm gonna have to go back and get it real quick."
But I don't think he ever made another roster, though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Because again, like the culture does not sports culture does not look kindly upon quitters. And we actually have an episode, I forget what the context of our discussion was, that's literally titled There is Honor in Quitting. because sometimes, man, like if you don't love it, like if you only love basketball for what it could bring for you, what it could do for you, and what it has done for you is bring a little bit of heartache and pain and chaos, then yeah, maybe he needs to step away for a year. He is the type of talent where Memphis will wait for him. They're not going to release him. They're not going to trade him. They'll wait for him to come back because honestly, he was set to be the face of American basketball. Like if you think about the 2024 Olympics, LeBron is probably not coming back. I doubt KD is going to play. I doubt Steph might play. He might take that elder statesman role, right? But if those three guys play, who's the face of American basketball next year for the Summer Olympics?
It's probably him, Tatum, Booker, Murray.
No, Murray's Canadian.
Oh, that he is. Yep, him, Tatum, and Booker. Yeah.
And so it's just like at this point, before all of this stuff went down, Ja's Q rating was higher than any of those guys you named. It was higher than Tatum, higher than Booker, and he's been in the league less time, right? Signature shoe. Tatum just got a signature shoe, I think, this year.
Yeah.
Just had a signature shoe release. He's the was going to have the Gatorade sponsorship, right? Like he was getting ready to cross over into kind of that sports culture, pop culture landscape where you're going to be able to recognize him immediately, right? There's going to be no questions of who is this guy? Oh, that's Ja Morant. And again, all of that is in jeopardy, and that's fine. But for me, like my thing with him is, are you okay? How can we help you? Right? Because I think that's the other thing is you're 23 years old and you are essentially the alpha for your entire family. That includes your parents. You are the head of the household at 23 years old because of how much money you've made. Mm-hmm. And so he needs someone who is asking him, how can we help you? How can we help you get better? How can we help you get back to a space where you feel safe? If that's the case, if he needs to feel that safety, right? How do we get you back to that space? Forget the money, because you're talented enough that if you do what you've been doing, you're going to get paid from a performance standpoint.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my concern with him, man. And I hope he's able to, like I said, to get the care that he needs, the help that he needs, and he's able to come back and be one of the best players in this league, because he was going to be all NBA before all this happened. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I just wanted to hit on that real quick.
No. Yeah, no. I think that's pretty much wrapped it up. You know, it's sad because like the family he comes from, you would think that his parents are like, he's the alpha because of money. But from what I understand is like he didn't come from a family that necessarily needed the money, And so, you would hope that would be some kind of connection there where it's just like, yo, like we don't need your money. We need you. You know what I mean? Because sometimes people suppress all of what they really want to say or being honest with their kids or their friends or whatever, because they're connected to this bank account. You know what I mean? And so you would hope that with his parents, being able to kind of survive and operate, in a good living situation his entire life, there'd be some people around him that's just like, yo, like, I don't need your money. I need you to understand, that life is short, so.
Yeah, and I'll say this as a kind of a quick closing, man. Check on your people. Like check on your people. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them how they're mentally how they're doing. Because like I think in this time frame that we live in, the space we live in, I think granted, I haven't checked the numbers, but I feel like a lot of people are harming themselves, and whether or not it is to the point of suicide or whether it's the point of like cutting or substance abuse of various forms, man, people are trying to cope with a lot of things. And so, if you got people in your life, check on them, make sure they're good. I think this is a fair point that Mama Ward brings up. It's just harder for men in general to admit that they might need help. When we ask each other all the time, yo, how you doing? And the response is, oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm cool. Oh man, ups and downs, da 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 da. Like we really don't like get into that real sometimes until it's like the 9th hour, right? Or the midnight hour. And they're like, yo, man, like, and it's like, bro, like one of the first things we always tell each other, why didn't you say something? Right? Like
always.
We get on always. And it's just like, yeah. So as men, like we have to be more vulnerable in that way to open up and be not only with each other as men, but like with the loved ones in our life, and be open with them and be honest with them and be like, yo, like, and I'm preaching to myself here, people. Like, I'm talking to myself about making sure that I'm open and honest with my wife about, like, if I'm dealing with anything, I'm struggling anything, to be like, yo, like, here's where I am mentally, here's where I am, So
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Good point, Mama Ward. So let's jump to this one thing before we get into this final topic of the Eastern Conference Finals and NBA Finals. So I don't know if you got a chance to hear this, but Scottie Pippen turned up in the news again. He was talking on is it Get the Hot Sauce? I think it's Get the Hot Sauce podcast with Stacey King and some of the I think it's a couple of Bulls announcers. Give me the Hot Sauce podcast and make sure I get it right. And so he was asked a question about all-time greats. I think it was referencing LeBron about all-time greats, right? And I pulled the quote, the clip. So I want to have you listen to this clip and we can respond to it. All right, so here's the clip. This is talking about all-time greats.
I'll leave that out for debating because I don't believe that there's a great player because our game is a team game and one player can't do it. Like, I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. You guys seen him play. He's a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. And
There's more.
All of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was. Everybody forgot who he was. He was a player that really winning wasn't at the top of his category. It was scoring. He was going after scoring titles. It wasn't until Phil Jackson showed up. That
Keep going.
Changed the menu a little bit. And that still took some time.
Yeah.
Anything else, Scottie?
But no, that wasn't in the documentary.
All right. So he said a lot there. And I'll say this. I didn't, when I saw the clip, or I saw the quote, right, the pull quote, which he was a horrible player. And I went, Scottie, come on, dog. I went, Boosie, come on, man. Like, what are you doing, Scottie? So now that there's a little bit more context there, and let me credit, that was Scottie Pippen on Stacey King's Give Me the Hot Sauce podcast. Let me make sure I get the credit there. What is your response to what Scottie had to say about Michael in that moment?
I mean, it sounds like what he was saying, and I don't know how necessary even saying all that was. I don't know. I think he could have answered the question without saying all of that. When it comes to, like, I think the question was who's the greatest player, and he's just basically
right.
like,
so
look,
it was the context. The context was it was talking about LeBron. It's like, where do you have LeBron? Do you think he's greater than Jordan? Right?
Yeah.
That was the context of the question.
Yeah. So I think he can still answer that conversation without saying all that. So the part of me is just like, yo, he wants to be a part of the news. He wants to. I mean, he knows what he's doing. Whether he believes that's correct or incorrect, what he said. Secondly, I think that he should have said he was a horrible team player. I don't think LeBron James, I don't think Michael Jordan was a horrible player before Scottie Pippen. Horrible is like, but I get it though. Mind you, there's been times where I've been like, man, John's trash. Like in battle rap, right? John is John, right? He's a top notch back, right? But like as a peer or whatever, like we'll use words that he's not trash like the dude that I battled, in LA last week, trash. It's the same word, you know what I mean? So Jordan wasn't a horrible basketball player. He played at North Carolina. He came into the league. He's drafted, he's not whole. So I think what he's saying is like, like once the correct team came around and was able to complement the way that he scored and the drive that he had and the mindset in which Jordan played with, that's when it enabled him to be the greatest ever, So I think that he said it all, and it all seems very negative and because it is the way he said it is like he's just basically going at Jordan. But it wasn't. It could have been picked. It could have been put together in a different light, like about just team playing and different things like that. So I'm not really for it because it sounded like a bunch of hating to me in how he said it and how he put it together, whether it's true or not.
So I listened to almost all of the conversation. I'm probably like 20 minutes short of listening to the whole thing. And I'll say this: what if Scotty's not wrong? So the horrible player part, you're absolutely right. He needs to say, listen, he was selfish. He calls him selfish at another point in the interview. He calls Phil selfish at another point. He kind of contradicts himself at times. Like at one point he goes, well, by the end of the run in 98, I was ready to leave. And it didn't matter if they stayed, I was out of here. But then like there's a conversation of, okay, the 2016 Warriors or the 96 Bulls. And he goes, if we would have stayed together, we would have won like another maybe one or two. I'm like, well, Scotty, like you said, you were out of here. Like, like you can't have it both ways, right? So he does kind of contradict himself throughout the course of the interview at times. That being said, I'm going to make a wrestling analogy. I've gotten back into wrestling a little bit because of the bloodline analogy. The bloodline.
Yeah, I've been seeing you comment on a bunch of stuff. I'm like, yo, is he like?
It's one of the best. Listen, I probably got out of wrestling during the Attitude at the end of the Attitude Era.
Yeah,
I don't know what happens. Probably after the WCW, ECW invasion, like that whole storyline, I probably tap out after of wrestling from that point, and I'm always peering in here and there. It's one of the best storylines I've ever seen in wrestling.
This bloodline storyline.
So it's the Samoan wrestlers, right? Samoans have a really deep history, especially within WWE.
Of course, The Rock.
Wild Samoans, Rikishi. Like you find out stuff like I didn't know Yokozuna was actually, I think he was Samoan, he wasn't Japanese.
Yeah.
So right, you find out all this stuff, right? So Roman Reigns is the head of the bloodline, head of the table. He's the tribal chief, so on and so forth, right? And so like everyone is supposed to bow to him. One of Roman's things, he comes to the ring, he goes, acknowledge me, right? Like that's the whole thing. He's supposed to acknowledge him as the tribal chief. So the way the storyline goes is you have these twin cousins of his called the Usos, and there's the storyline is the way it's being written right now. A rift is developing in the bloodline. Like the Usos are kind of sick of the head of the table, tribal chief thing. And it's like, you know what? What if Scotty's right? Right? Because like we have this image of Jordan based on narrative building, right? We weren't there. We weren't in practice with him. We weren't day to day with Jordan, right? So we have kind of this romanticized view of Jordan, but he lived it every day. And so essentially what has happened with the bloodline to kind of close the loop on the story is one of the brothers super kicked Roman Reigns. There was an event this weekend. They interfere in the match. Roman gets hot. He starts like punking them, like because he's been like part of his leadership is bullying. Which, if you look at Jordan, his leadership style was fear based, right? I don't think that's up for debate. So he's bullying them. Get out of my ring. You ain't no more day ones. You're done. And one of the brothers like, I'm sick of this. And he super kicks him. And the other twin is like, bro, why would you do this? He's like, I'm going to do what you should have did a long time ago. Super kicks him a second time. Internet goes crazy, right? And so it's like Scotty, who's been on the inside all these years, has had to listen to the narrative and the myth of Michael Jordan. He's like, I was with this guy every day. His stuff stink just like mine, and y'all act like it don't. And so, like, when you have been relegated to sidekick status for so long.
Oh, you got bars now?
Hey, you know, from time to time, you know, I'm able to put a little couple of things together. You know what I'm
saying? That's crazy.
When you get relegated to sidekick status for so long, at a certain point, you get sick of hearing about how this guy was God's gift to the sport. And how he just drugged these other guys along. You were just along for the ride. Like, he didn't contribute anything. And so while a lot of what Scotty does and says does come off as bitter, it does come off as petty, he might have a right to feel that way. I'm not saying he should come out and say he was a terrible player. Because what he says, like you said, what he says is there's truth to what he's saying. Like Jordan himself says, hey, the turning point was Phil saying to me, you got to trust the guys around you. You got to learn how to, they will, if you give them the ball, they will score. They will make the right things happen. So again, we have come to not appreciate the messenger because Scottie said a bunch of, kind of frankly ridiculous stuff. But dog, there might be some truth to what he's saying. That's all I want you guys to consider.
So what are you gonna do if he comes out and says, and Jordans weren't even that good until Pippins came out?
Hey, again, we've had this conversation on the show. I don't get how Jordan up tempos are fire. I don't get how Jordan played in these shoes because if they feel any way they feel after wearing them for a couple of hours, he really is the GOAT because those things will have your dogs barking after a while. And as a matter of fact, he talked about what was it in The Last Dance? It talks about he played in the original ones near the end of his career, and like how like his feet were like bloodied or like hello, you should anyway. But now, like y'all,
it's weird though. It's two different dynamics because I just watched the interview. Did you see the interview on All the Smoke with Robert Ory?
No, I had to check it out.
So Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson are asking him about. I mean, he played with Olajuwon, Shaq, and Tim Duncan. Arguably probably 3 of the top 6 big men of all time.
Absolutely.
But just the way that he eloquently spoke about all of them, but he said like Hakeem, Olajuwon's number 1, like clearly it's him. Of those 3, and he kind of went in, but he spoke in a way. He didn't say like, before Shaq was this or that. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't that. The reason he was there was to shed light on a situation. Yes, of course, in saying that Olajuwon is clearly number 1, Shaq might look at that like, dang, you know what I mean? But he communicated in a way that it didn't come across like Robert Ory says Olajuwon is clearly better than Shaq. And I feel like that Pippen could have done something like that.
I mean, Pippen might be the king of the backhanded compliment because like 5 minutes before that, he pushed Jordan on Mount Rushmore. So again, like I think he appreciate Michael's talent. I'm not going to say he enjoyed playing with him because again, he called the man a bully in the.
But you got to enjoy winning.
Would I enjoy winning if I'm being verbally abused the entire way? Like, just think about that. Like, would you enjoy that if every step of the way you're being told you're not good enough? You're trash.
Well, the only way I'm staying playing is if I'm winning in that type of situation. That's the only thing that's keeping me on the team.
I'm just saying, like Smush Parker. Maybe he feels differently now that Kobe has passed, but he hated Kobe because of how verbally abusive he was to him. I never forget the game where they go to overtime and he goes to Smush and he like steal you are going to make I'm like, bro, like why are you cuffing? Grab me by my shirt, telling me you better do this, right? So yeah. I don't know. Like I tell you, I put it to you like this. In contrast to like Jimmy Butler, right? Jimmy Butler was asked a question about the role players. And he goes, I don't call them role players. I call them teammates because our roles change from day to day. Like Jimmy Butler is very demanding in how you prepare for games and how you play. Like he talked about this in another interview. I saw him. He says, well, look, when I played in Chicago, he goes, there was no star system. He's like, Joakim Noah is cussing Derrick Rose out because Derrick Rose is missing his assignment. And so he's like, there's a level of accountability that I was brought up in as a young player that as I became a vet, that was the standard for me. Like, you're going to get stuff wrong. I'm going to yell at you, but it's not because I hate you, not because I don't want, I dislike you. I want you to try as hard as I'm trying. And I think there's a way to communicate that and get that across without being a jerk. Yeah. And granted, even Jimmy has a reputation of being hard to play with at times. So again, a certain part of leadership is going to require you to be a jerk. I'm sorry. There are no just kind of really nice, hey guys, I really appreciate it if you close out here. I really appreciate it if you would, execute your screen. Like you're going to have to like get in somebody's butt. Like for lack of a better term. Yes, I said it. And I'm not going to. No, I said it. You gotta get in somebody's tail sometime.
Look, you have to understand, I'm a battle rapper, so anytime this stuff could be a meme or a GIF or something like that.
Hey, Ace, pull up, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm not pausing anything. Anyway.
the one thing I can learn to appreciate about LeBron is just with technology, cameras, and social media, and everything. Is I don't think Jordan stays out of the way like LeBron does. If all of that is accessible into the locker room and how he was a player and what he did, you know what I mean? I don't think. I think LeBron has done a pretty good job of. You got paused by moms. Let's go, mom.
Not pausing anything. I stand behind everything I said.
That's not the right term for that. For what you said, you can't come back and say you stand behind. All right, so we just not gonna go there. But yeah, I do think that one thing I do love about LeBron is that he's made his off the court, locker room, all that kind of stuff. For the most part, he's handled himself as a elite and one of the best ever basketball players, media guys, humans. So that's dope.
But yeah, y'all let us know what y'all think about that, about Scottie's comments, man. Like I said, I think there's truth to what he's saying. The delivery needs to change. Like you said, I've heard Robert Horry talk about, I think he was on Dan Patrick talking about Shaq and Elijah Wan in particular. Those two, I don't think they got to Duncan or even Robinson for that matter. But yeah, I think there's a certain level of couth. Couth is the only word that's coming to mind, but there's a certain level of respect you can have in these conversations. So last thing, man, let's get into this. So
Speaking of Duncan,